Okay, we had a question on the practice exam, question number 31. How many total zucchinis will be given after 8 days? So the first thing we want to do is we could do this by hand or we can use Excel, and there's several different ways we could use Excel. So I'm going to come in here, and the very first day we know 1 zucchini was given, the second day 2, the next day 4, and so on. So we could just keep doubling this in our head. 4 doubled is 8, double 8 is 16, double 16 is 32, and then double 32 to get 64. So we could just hurry and do that in our head, and then we want a total, so we can add that in Excel. Because I have these all lined up, I'm going to press equals because I want it to calculate something. Type in sum, and then open your parenthesis, then left click on the cell you want to start adding, hold that click, and pull down until you hit the last cell that you want to add. Unclick, and it says, okay, I want to add all those together. Press enter. You can close the parenthesis if you want to, but you don't have to. Excel already knows now what's going on. And there you go. There's the total. Another way you can do this is how it was explained in the book with the grains of rice. Oh, I was going to show you one more way with Excel. So instead of calculating each of these in your head or with a calculator, you can use Excel to double it for you. So the second method, we have to give it somewhere to start. So I'm going to put a 1. But the next one, I'm going to make Excel calculate the doubling for me, because in this case it only goes to 7 days, but you might have one that goes to 128 days. And so that would be kind of long. So I'm going to press equals. And I'm going to cell reference the cell above me. So I'm going to come up here and just left click once and say do something with this cell. And I'm going to times it by 2 because I want to double it. Then I press enter, and it doubled it for me by timesing it by 2. Now, this formula right here says that I want the cell above the cell I'm in times 2. So if I click here on the little crosshairs down in the right hand corner and pull, so I left click and just pull down, you'll see it keeps taking the cell above and doubling it. So I can go all the way down. There we go. So Excel did the calculating for me, and that was kind of nice. The other way of doing it is finding the formula. You could go ahead and just take the formula straight from the chess inventor with the grains of rice, but we could also just come up with this ourselves by saying, okay, I can see, I'm not even going to type it in yet to calculate. I can see that day 1 I got 1. Day 2 I got 2. Day 3 I got 4. So I can see these are all what is considered base 2. And I know anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So I could say this is really 2 raised to the 0. Now some of you aren't going to go along with this. That's fine. Use the Excel method and you can kind of skip forward in the video. The next one is 2 to the first power. 2 to 1 is 2. And I also know that 2 squared is 4. And 2 to the third is 8. If I keep going with this, can you see the relation to the day? Day 4 is cubed. Day 3 is squared. Day 2 is to the first. See how we're going 2 to the day minus 1. Now, if you look in your book, it actually matches what they did. See how in the table for the rice, it goes from square 1 equals 2 to the 0. Well, that's how they got it, is they saw the pattern and they went through it. So if I wanted to just find out day 7, for instance, or even if it went on further, I could just hurry and plug it in and put equals 2 raised to the day minus 1. So in this case, 6. There we go, it's 64. So that's a way of calculating the days. But remember, it asked for the total. So I can come down here again and use Excel and just press equals and total. But we also have another formula they gave us in the book that gives us a way of finding the total. And it's 2 to the, and it was developed the same way that our third column here was developed by finding the pattern. 2 raised to the day, you'll notice that it matches on that column. See how grains on this square, it's a 0, so we subtracted. The formula for total grains matches the day exactly, so I'm going to put day and not day minus 1. So I'm going to put day, and then that whole thing is minus 1. I guess technically I didn't type that in right. I'm going to do day in parentheses minus 1, so that's all in the exponent, which is different than putting day minus 1 like this. I apologize for the error on my on my notation. So in this one, that gives me the actual total for the days. So down here, I can use their formula, or I could go ahead and use Excel on these smaller ones. The formula is nice because if you get something that goes out to like 100 days, you don't want to have to do that all by hand, although Excel certainly speeds that up. This right here, you could just go ahead and type it in. 2 raised to the, and this actually matches day, so we're going to do 7. And then I'm going to minus 1. And don't put these in parentheses right here, because the minus 1 is not a part of the parenthesis in the total formula. And I guess I should have gone down one. There we go. It's 127. So we have 2 different ways. Now I'm going to go back to the post. I'm going to pause this for just a sec. So Peggy asks, I figured the day would be 7 days, and it would be 1 times 2 to the 7 over 1 equals 2 to the 7, right? Which gives 128, but that's wrong. So what I believe Peggy is doing is in section 8b, which is calculations with doubling time, which would be new value equals initial value times 2 to the t over t double. So this is a little off because that's in 8b, and I'm going to kind of go through that why. And this question actually came from 8a, and I know a lot of you are thinking, well, how do you know which section? This just happened to tell us because it's the practice test. So I'm going to come back in to Excel and show you why it doesn't work using that formula. So here we're back in Excel, and down here I've already put in the formula, new value equals initial value times 2, sorry, I'll click out of that so you can see, raised to the t, which is the time, divided by t, the capital T, which is the doubling time. So let's find out what the initial value is. Oh, I used 2 different variables. Initial value. So the initial value, I start out with 1 zucchini. The doubling time is 1 day. The time, now this is a tricky part, the time that I'm looking for, it's very tempting to say 7 days. However, because I already started with my initial value being 1, that day's already been taken. It is not a part of my continuation. So I'm going to take day 7 minus day 1, which is 6 days, because this one, it's not where it's the initial value, it's not the continuation on of where I want to be, the time. So that was the tricky part. So now I'm going to go ahead and calculate. Actually, I'm going to write it down and then go ahead and calculate. So we're going to do the initial value, which is 1, times 2 raised to the t, which is the 6 days, divided by the doubling time, which is 1 day, and there we go. So to calculate, I'm going to put equals, and then I'm going to go ahead and do this. And the reason I did that is the first part is so that you could see what we were plugging in. Okay, so now that I want it to actually calculate that, I'm going to plug all that in. Notice it gave me the new value, which is day 7. That's perfect. That's what I wanted for the new value, but the total, the answer, is asking for the total number of zucchinis given throughout all 7 days. So the reason this one didn't work is it gave me the total for day 7. It just didn't give me the total for everything. So again, I'm going to reiterate that you can come up here and do the sum formula, equals sum. After any method you like, you can do it by hand. You can let Excel do it. You can use the formula they used for the grains of rice. This one's probably not as time efficient for this problem. Or you could just go ahead and use the total formula, which they gave you. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do the sum once again, just so that you can see how to do it. So you do equals, because I want it to calculate, type in sum, put a open parenthesis, and yes, some of you are already familiar with AutoSum, and you can just click that and it'll go through the exact same thing. So this one's even faster. I'm going to go ahead and go through this though, because not all of the formulas that we will be doing have a button up here, and so I just want you to get familiar with how you type it in and then work it all out. So that we open the parenthesis, then left click, just one click and hold at the top and drag it down saying I want to add all of those together. Press enter. That gives you the total. And those of you who are curious to see how the AutoSum works, you just click AutoSum and it does it all for you, which is kind of nice if it's all in a column. Then press enter. There you go. So that's several different ways to find the total number of zucchinis for problem number 31. Good luck on your test and the practice exam.